that's not the end of the story. And boys and girls, if you'll come, we'll tell you the rest of the story as well as we share that with others. Will you join us? Any more? Okay. Well, you heard what happened to Jesus, didn't you? But on the first day of the week, those women came to the tomb taking the spices that they had prepared, and they found that the stone had been rolled back from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. And they were perplexed. Yeah. And they were perplexed about that, and didn't know quite what to do. And while they were thinking, why, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them, and they were terrified. And they looked down, and the men said to them, "Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Do you not remember how he told you while you were still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners, be crucified, and on the third day rise again?" And then they remembered his words, and going home from the tomb, they told the apostles all of these things that they had heard. And that was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Mary the mother of James, and the other women told those things to the apostles. But you know what? They did not believe a thing. They thought it was simply an idle tale. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. And stooping and looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves, and then he went home amazed at what had happened. Now, later that day, 2 followers of Jesus were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking about all these things that had happened. And while they were talking and discussing with each other, Jesus came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. He said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" And they stood still, looking kind of sad. And then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he said, "Well, what things?" And they said, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and it's now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Some others of our group went to the tomb, and they found it just like the women had said. But they did not see him." And then the stranger said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are. How slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Wasn't it necessary for the Messiah to suffer these things and then enter into his glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures." And when they came near the village to which they were going, he walked on as if he were going ahead. And they said to him urgently, "Oh, stay with us. It's almost evening. The day is nearly over." And so he went in to stay with them. And when they were at the table, he took some bread, and he blessed it, and he broke it, and he gave it to them. And then their eyes were opened. They recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. And And they said to each other, were not our hearts burning in us while he was talking with us on the road, when he was interpreting the scriptures to us? And that same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, all 7 miles. And they found the 11 gathered together with some of their companions, and they were saying, the Lord is risen indeed. He's appeared to Simon. And then they told what had happened on the road and how he had become known to them in the breaking of the bread.
And while they were still talking about all of this, Jesus himself came and stood right there among them. And he said, peace be with you. Well, they were startled and frightened, thinking they saw a ghost. Jesus said, why are you troubled? Why do you have doubts that rise in your mind? Look at my hands and my feet. It is I myself. Yeah, you can touch me and see, for a ghost doesn't have flesh and bones as you see I have. And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And even though they were trying to believe this, and they were so shocked and surprised and joyous, Jesus said to them, do you have anything here to eat? I think he was hungry. And they gave him a piece of broiled fish. And he took it, and he ate it right there in their presence. Then he said to them, this is what I told you when I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms. And then he opened their minds so that they could understand the scriptures. And he said, this is what is written. The Messiah will suffer and will rise again on the 3rd day, and repentance for the forgiveness of sins will be preached in his name to all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are all witnesses of these things. I am going to send you what the Father has promised. But stay here. Stay here in the city until you have been clothed with power from on high. And when he had led them out into the vicinity of Bethany, he raised his hands and he blessed them. And while blessing them, he left them and was taken up into heaven. Then they worshiped him. And they returned to Jerusalem with great joy. And they stayed continually at the temple, praising God.